Having the right information for various health conditions, especially a stroke, could be the difference between you having a full recovery and not having any recovery. So today I'm going to show you some really important information on what to do if you have a stroke, as far as what nutrient to take, as well as the best nutrient to recover from a stroke if you get one. Now, you have mini strokes and then you have severe strokes. The mini strokes can last anywhere between 15 minutes to 24 hours, and the symptoms are not permanent. They go away. But then you have a severe stroke, which can leave permanent damage on one side of your body. And if you get a mini stroke, the odds of you getting a severe stroke are pretty high. It's like 1 in 5 within the next year. So it's definitely a big clue that you better change things really quick. And this video is going to be very important if you've ever had a mini stroke. Now, there's a very simple way to identify various indicators that you're having a stroke. And the acronym is B FAST. And B stands for balance. Let's say your balance is off, you're not coordinated. So that's B. And then E, that's for eye. So maybe one of your eyes gets blurry. All right. And F is for face. So one side of your face starts drooping, and you can identify this if you smile. Then you have A for arm. So one of your arms just does not want to go up. And then S for speech. Your speech is a little bit slurred. And then T basically for time, because you want to call an ambulance really fast. There's a certain drug that they can give you if you catch it under 4 hours to help dissolve the clot. So what is this nutrient that's so important? Well, it's a type of vitamin E, but it's not the regular vitamin E that you might have heard of, like tocopherol. It's a different type of vitamin E called tocotrienol. And each type of vitamin E has their own subtype. So you have the alpha, the beta, the gamma, the delta for each type of vitamin E. And the alpha tocotrienol is 1,000 times stronger than the alpha tocopherol in protecting the neurodegeneration that occurs from a stroke. And all it takes is extremely small doses to prevent a glutamate-induced brain cell death. So let's say, for example, you start noticing you have a problem with your speech or your arm, or you're getting a stroke, then you'd want to take this tocotrienol immediately to prevent more damage. But even if you don't have any tocotrienol on hand, I would go out to get some and use that in your rehab for a stroke. And whatever it recommends on the directions, I would take probably 4 times that, and I would spread it out through the day. And I would not take it with tocopherols. I would only take tocotrienols in a blend that includes the alpha, the beta, the gamma, and the delta. Because apparently the tocopherol and the tocotrienols tend to compete, and we don't want anything to dilute the effect. So tocotrienols can be used to prevent a stroke, to help during the stroke, preventing damage, and in the recovery phase after you get a stroke. The tocotrienols have very special properties protecting the cell membrane of a neuron. So it's also good for other things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dystonia, which is this involuntary movement or twisting motion. It's also very beneficial for ataxia, which is this condition where you are very uncoordinated. Your balance is terrible, and you're falling and you just don't have the balance because there's some type of damage in the back part of the brain called the cerebellum. And it's also good for another condition called dysautonomia. Okay. So basically that's a dysfunction of your autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. If there's one of these two systems that are working in overdrive or not working strong enough, vitamin E is what you should take. So one example would be, let's say you just can't sweat no matter how much exercise you do. Another opposite condition would be you just sweat all the time and you can't control it. That would be an example of dysautonomia. Another condition would be called POTS, okay? That's a condition where you can't even stand up without, passing out. It's a severe problem with the autonomic nervous system. And I've talked about that in a lot of videos. B1 is very, very important, but also vitamin E in the form of tocotrienols. And one last thing that tocotrienols are really good for, it has nothing to do with the brain, it has everything to do with the heart, okay? As in like a heart attack. So you can look at tocotrienols as a natural version of nitroglycerin because it's very powerful in increasing the oxygen to the heart muscle itself. Now, vitamin E in general is necessary to allow the omega-3 fats, especially DHA, to work in the brain. So if you're deficient in vitamin E, you could be taking a lot of fish oils and DHA directly and not notice a lot of change. One of the biggest reasons why people are deficient in vitamin E is they consume too many refined grains. So refined grains are a big reason why you might be deficient in vitamin E, or it could be you're just not consuming enough foods that are high in vitamin E. Now, when we talk about tocotrienols, it's a bit difficult to get it from foods because I'll just list the foods that it's in. Annetto, which you probably never heard of. Then we have palm oil. Well, a lot of people don't consume palm oil. It's also in rice bran oil, okay, which a lot of people don't consume that. But it's also in olive oil in very small amounts. Out of all the conditions that you can get, you don't want to get a stroke. And so how do you prevent it? Do you just take an aspirin a day? Well, you should check with your doctor with that, but there's some recent information about aspirin that could be damaging, especially if you have a hemorrhage type stroke where there's a bursted blood vessel and then you take an aspirin and it causes more bleeding in your stomach and other parts of the body. I'm not telling you not to take your aspirin, but just check with your doctor and then get the full information on if you should take it or not. But there's some natural things that thin the blood, like garlic, that's one. Being on the ketogenic diet and getting the sugars out of the diet, which is one of the deeper causes for a clot or a plaquing or the formation of a plaque. Omega-3 fatty acids, okay, fish oils, very important. Cod liver oil is really good as well as getting rid of the omega-6 fatty acids, which is in a lot of restaurant foods. And it's hidden in the soy oil, in the corn oil, in the canola oil, in the safflower oil, the sunflower oil. And they can create inflammation in the arteries and potentially cause a problem with the stroke down the road. And regular exercise to keep the blood flow and to actually decrease your risk of stroke. But if you ever experience any symptoms of a stroke or you know someone that had a stroke, get them on the tocotrienol version of vitamin E. Now, if you haven't seen my other video on tocotrienols, I'm going to put that up right here. Check it out.